So welcome to Casa de Pierre on just outside of San Marcos on Lago Atitlan in Guatemala for what is our second gathering of Guardians of Gaia. And it's quite an extraordinary journey that we're on, that I will explain as we progress today. But to begin the journey, what's going to be very important is that we come into alignment and coherence with ourselves and one another and into a unified field. Who have journeyed with me before, we're going to go through the alignment process. This process is an integrated part of my everyday practice, particularly in the morning. I will do my morning cleansing ritual and then go out onto the grass, do a meridian clearing with Qigong, and then go through this alignment process before my yoga. And what I find is it brings me into a place of centeredness, alignment, coherence, and connection that holds me strong throughout my day. So it doesn't matter what may come, what may happen during the day, I don't get knocked out of center. And with the world the way it is, with what's going on in the planetary system right now, both in the planetary body and in the consciousness of humanity, it's more important than ever that we have our centered, grounded, and aligned place of orientation from which we can live from and return to during major shifts. And the greater this integration, the stronger our system is, the more coherent and connected it is, the more aligned and in sync with the planetary body and the new earth architecture. It changes our experience of reality. So that when there's chaos in the field, we don't have to be a part of that chaos. We can actually become a harmonizer in that field. And for many of us who are empaths and who are extremely sensitive and have come into the world having to control their external reality so that we can be in this world, once we become really grounded with our consciousness through our body and connected into the unified field, that experience has a pole shift. And we then can be coherent, aligned, connected, and start informing our environment. And it's simply a law of nature that all will gravitate to a higher frequency. And all those here that I've journeyed with before and I'm familiar with, many of you are all space holders and facilitators. And it's important to understand that from the new earth architecture, it also changes the way we hold space. For we no longer hold space, we are held from the space of the new earth architecture, and all those we engage with are held from that space. So that too creates another pole shift in our reality and our perceptual state of holding space for others. So although this is a meditation, many of our meditations are based on Eastern philosophies, which are meditations outside of body. I am going to invite you and encourage you to come up off your comfy couch and orthopedic office chairs and join me standing as we go through this alignment process. Because our earth walk is an earth walk of embodiment in this particular lifetime and timeline. And when we go through meditative practices or shamanic journeys, when we do them viscerally integrated through the physical body, they align and integrate much more rapidly and much deeper into the system. So you can imagine we have done our meridian Qigong, and we're going to go through the alignment process. I invite you to sound, breathe, and move as much as you would like during this process. And definitely use it as an opportunity to shift anything that is stuck in your system. So we will begin by a little bit of shaking. Big breath in, out with sound. And really arriving into this present moment, letting go of all that came before and all that may be unfolding for you afterwards, so that you can land into this body, into this here and now, and into this unified field. So let us start by aligning the physical body, the mental body, and the emotional body. For many who are new to this journey, you may also be new or going through stages of letting go of your mind and programming, leading your earth walk, and rather letting your soul come in as the leader of your earth walk. So to reorganize the earth team, we have to reorganize and recalibrate the physical, mental, and emotional bodies, so that there is no hierarchy between them, and that they learn to work coherently and cohesively with one another as part of your own system. So aligning the physical, mental, and emotional body with the all-pervading soul, higher self, and oversoul. Making sure you're moving your spine, the main trunk line energy system of your physicality. So aligning physical, mental, emotional body with all-pervading soul, higher self, and oversoul. And from this space, I'm going to open the portals above and below and invite you to repeat after me. I command.
I command.
What is not of my soul essence.
What is not of my soul essence.
Must leave my system now and return to source.
Must leave my system now and return to source.
So we've aligned physical, mental, emotional with all-pervading soul, higher self, and oversoul. The next step is to sync a luminous thread from your root to your base, your womb space. Be you in a male or female body, we all have an etheric womb. So from your root to your base, your womb space, syncing that etheric cord down through the floor, the soils, the sands, the bedrocks, the water, into the molten core in the heart of Gaia. And there's thunder rolling around the volcanoes right now. So sinking that luminous thread deep down into that molten core in the heart of Gaia, and into that aquamarine primordial plasmic ocean of creation. And then inhaling those energies up through your root, your base, your womb space, expanding them with sound on the exhalation through the pelvic bowl. Inhaling up again through the feet, the legs, the thighs, the hips. Again, expanding the sound through the pelvic bowl on the exhalation. And once more, inhaling up. that water and fire from the heart of Gaia into the pelvic bowl, where those energies of creation may mix and mingle, breaking down any density to allow a free flow of life force energy. And on the next inhalation, we're coming up through the roots, the base, the womb space, into the belly and expanding with sound in the belly, the second brain, our emotional body, and our digestive system, supporting us to digest life and the changes that are happening so rapidly in life at present. The next inhalation, up through the root, the base, the womb space, through the belly, into the solar plexus, the power center. And also connected with our lungs and our sense of self-love, self-worth, self-respect. So breathing, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth with sound, vibrating it through the solar plexus. Feeling into your sense of self, the level of self-love you have. Oh. And on the next inhalation, we're coming up through the root, the base, the womb space, the belly, the solar plexus, into the heart space. Again, expanding with sound, expanding that heart space. Oh. And again, sounding, breathing, moving. You may like to twist your body to wring it out. Coming up through the heart and tuning into our self-love, our love for one another, and our love for the planetary body, our love for our host planet. So we're aligning all of that, physical, mental, emotional body, soul, higher self, and oversoul, anchoring through our body and the planetary body to our true self beyond the illusion, synchronizing, synthesizing, synergizing that with the universe and embodying it. And as we do that, we're bringing our own toroidal field in harmony, in synergy, with the toroidal field of the planetary body. So if you can imagine your own toroidal field as it's spinning through you, is connecting with the toroidal field of the planetary body. Now, this alignment process up to now is the way we aligned our bodies with the planetary body before the new Earth architecture became available to us. So for those who have journeyed with me some time ago, you may be familiar up until this stage of the journey. The next stage we're taking is to surrender through the core of Source in the heart of Gaia, where the new Earth architecture emerges that is not outside of self. So when I come to this stage, I literally imagine the planetary body to be within my pelvic bowl. surrendering through the core of Source in the heart of Gaia, where the new earth architecture emerges that is not outside of self. And if you just surrender into that, you can feel yourself supported. You can feel the strength of support of the planetary body through our physical body, that we are held. And it enables us to really land, to arrive here, to be here now. So just allowing yourself to really surrender into that, the core of Source in the heart of Gaia, where the new earth architecture emerges that is not outside of self. And know that this is the place for all of you who are facilitators and space holders. This is the space where we let go of the old way of space holding. This is the place where we are held and supported. And so long as we are anchored through here, everyone we meet, greet, share space with is also held from the space. So it helps us step out of the me or I that was space holding into the we are all held from this field. The next stage is to surrender through the core of Source in our own heart space. So again, we're surrendering through the core of Source, your divine essence, through your own heart space. Inhaling, exhaling with sound. Ooh. And then the next step is surrendering through the core of Source in the heart of the sun that is not outside of self. And again, imagining that sun to be in your heart in the sun. Oh. And the next step is surrendering through the core of Source in the galactic center that is not outside of self. And I often imagine the galactic center to be in the center of the pineal gland. Our gateway to God, our connection with the all-seeing, all-knowing. So again, I invite you to engage your own sound, song, soul signature, which is unique to you. 3 inhalations on the exhalation with sound, and use it to strengthen and fortify your own pillar. Oh. Oh. Strengthen and fortifying your own new earth pillar and coming into harmonic with all of us who are gathered here today. For those of us that will be listening to this recording later today and beyond. Ooh. Inviting your sound, song, soul signature to reverberate out through the universe. And to invite in all parts of your consciousness through time, space, and dimension into your body, into your bubble, into this here and now. Oh. Deeply honoring and connecting with the point on the planet that you are on standing today. As I honor Lago Atitlan, my home for this 1 month period. And a deep journey into the unknown. So welcome everybody. It's wonderful to have so many old and familiar faces and places, and many here from Europe, and it's very late at night for you. It seems we are spanning Gaia very well today. From New Zealand, Bali, Europe, and the Americas. It was very interesting. It's been a very interesting journey since we last met a month ago. In the lead up to the Lion's Gate. The Lion's Gate, which in my experience has been perhaps one of the most intense passages of any Lion's Gate so far. And it was extraordinary. It required some deep inner work. And from that, I have experienced access to more expanded potential, both in my one-on-one journeys and in our mastery and multidimensionality journey. And through that Lion's Gate period, I was in Teotihuacan in Mexico. 1 year before, we were walking in Giza through Lion's Gate, through Egypt. And it was very clear then to be in Teotihuacan for Lion's Gate. And during the lead up to that journey, I was very grateful to come across the map that showed the as above, so below reflection of the layout of the Teotihuacan pyramid complex. Because in seeing that, I understood better then, although there's a pyramid of the moon and the pyramid of the sun, the representation of the sun and the as above, so below is actually the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent in Mayan mythology. And that's where I was taken actually earlier on in the journeys. There were different pieces to the puzzle, but one of the biggest pieces that took place happened at the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl at, oh, my mail just popped up and I'm just quitting it out. Almost quit soon. And it happened at the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl. And it was an extraordinary experience, very similar to experiences I've had at sites that I would refer to as points on the planetary switchboard. But being there that morning, on the 12th, which was a Saturday, there was an enormous influx of cosmic energy that came down through my system, through the temple system, and it came right into the core of Gaia. What happened next is something that had never happened before. I had, until I guess a few years ago when I was doing one of my Qigong trainings, I was very aware of the meridians on our body similar to the ley lines on the planet, and that's the way I'd worked until then, and the as above, so below. And then it was during one of my Qigong trainings, I learned about divergent meridians. And it was from that understanding of divergent meridians, I could follow what happened next as this energy came through into the core of the planet. Instead of it going straight back, what started happening is it started activating divergent meridians within the planetary body. So these are beyond the dragon lines or ley lines that run across the main planetary body, there are also divergent meridians that connect points on the planetary body directly through the center of Gaia. So this all took place over a period of about, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. And it was fascinating because there were two big groups that started moving in, and their consciousness and energy was part of the journey. And when they started clapping and getting the resonance coming off all the temples, that was when the energy came back up again and reconnected back to the source of creation. And it was like, wow. And I didn't understand quite how big that was until it took me about a major detour and a big Fibonacci spiral to find the way back to my hotel. That's how disorientated I was from that experience, which helped me understand that it was quite a major activation in the planetary body and therefore in our human bodies that took place then. And this is one of the reasons why our morning practice and that alignment process is so important at this time on the planet, for us to be able to stand firm in the center of the storm that is whipping around our planet right now, both within humanity's collective consciousness and environmentally. So that was one of the big pieces of the puzzle that happened there. And as I'd mentioned earlier on one of our journeys, that the flight path I'd been given for this 6 months through the Americas was very different than what the universe had planned for me when it was time to arrive here. And instead of going up to Shasta before Mexico, Hawaii, and then Peru, I got brought straight into Mexico, to the pyramids. And when I asked where to next, I got directed to Guatemala to return to Lake Atitlan. And it was very interesting feeling for where am I meant to stay in Lake Atitlan. And where we're meeting today in this loft on the edge of the lake is called Oro Preto. And that means black gold in Espanol. And I was asking them, so what is the black gold that is calling in Lake Atitlan? And the response I got was that deep within the crater lake is information pertaining to the ancient history of humanity. And I was like, oh, curious, no idea what or would unfold here, and packed my bag and came over anyway. And literally when landing at the airport, I got a very beautiful welcome into Guatemala, like I don't think I've had on any country on earth. And I was brought to the edge of the lake, and just as we started our descent into the lake, there was this enormous thunder, lightning, torrential rain that literally poured until I arrived at the gate of the place where I'm staying. And it took me probably a good week, 10 days to fully land into the field here. And I have permission from a sister who's sharing a 6-month program with me at the current time, who is of the same monad as myself. And just last week, we were doing a journey here together on the lake, and this piece of the puzzle emerged. And it was a very important piece because during that journey, we were shown how, although this is a crater lake and was created from a natural eruption, the cause of the natural eruption was not natural. The cause of the natural eruption that created Lago Atitlan came from the timelines of ancient Atlantis and a misuse and abuse of elemental power. And our monad was responsible for that. So it was a really profound insight into this piece of the puzzle, this as one of the major Atlantean outposts on the planet, but also the piece of misuse of power, and particularly of elemental nature. Because what I've been discovering on our embodiment and evolutionary journey, particularly those of us who have vehicles are older models than others, we came into a very carbon-based body, while the new ones are coming in very crystalline and even plasma bodies now. Ours is very carbon-based. So therefore, we've had to go through a longer, more arduous process of transforming our carbon-based vehicles into crystalline ones. But during this process, we're all going through an evolutionary process. All species are. And we're literally going through an evolutionary process on an elemental structure. So the structure of the elements is, we're gaining access to finer levels of elemental structure. So it was a wonderful lesson to learn now on this aspect of the journey, as we learn to tap into the natural elemental powers that these bodies enable us to do through the planetary body, that we do it with utmost care, respect, and humility, so that we don't have to repeat our past. So that was a huge lesson and blessing from this journey so far in this bowl of Atitlan, one of our ancient Atlantean centers. So let me pause there. Is there anything that anybody would like to ask or share or contribute to our journey so far today, before I explain a little bit more about what we've discovered of the destiny of guardians of Gaia?
Blessing, sister. I'm feeling into the Americas calling for a lot more attention than ever before. I myself have been placed back here for the last 90 days, much to my surprise. So I'll return to Bali after the equinox, but the tug is so strong. There's so much work to be done here. And I find myself now in Los Angeles in the heat of, it's just percolating. And as I say that, I can feel the fires burning underneath my feet. And I see the witch burnings. It is almost like that for me in these last months with the ancestral cleanup. I mean, there's not a shovel large enough. And I'm blessed to be in the Kuan Yin sanctuary of my lineage, and I tend to Mother Earth on a daily basis. So there's a very big blessing as I gaze at the center of this space that is Los Angeles. I'm not sure if it's Atlantean or Lemurian. I know it's a Lyran base. It doesn't really matter. The work is so present. So I'm so blessed to be here today with this beautiful group of people. And thank you for the call.
Thank you for joining us, Renee, and thank you for also following your call. It is really important, and yes, there's a lot going on in the Americas. I have not been out in the Americas for a few years, but literally it was a year ago I was told these 6 months would be fully North, Central, South America. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot moving in the Americas right now. So yeah, we're feeling it. Thank you for being here. Casey, did you have something to share? Welcome to this circle.
Hi, thank you. I'm just happy to connect with you in physicality. I am in the Americas. I am in Oregon, but I go to Shasta all the time, right? And Leanna and I had mentioned just briefly of maybe meeting up in Shasta, although plans change and we know how that goes. And I'm feeling a bit, I know that Los Angeles is like the connecting point between Lemuria and Atlantis. It's like the bridge between. So you're doing work for both worlds right now, which is really beautiful. I'm excited for our groups to start coming together as the tribes start gathering more and more. And I've been feeling like next year sometime Tibet is going to come up also. There's like another soul person over there. And I keep getting the call that it's going to be the gathering of the masters at Mount Kailash over there. So holding space for all that to come forward.
Beautiful. Thank you, Casey. And yeah, I'm getting a full visceral confirmation on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's lovely. And yeah, I guess that's what, after our first gathering of Guardians of Gaia that we initiated from Tepoztlan in Mexico through to Anna was in Sweden, in Farnell, Sweden. And we thought we were just, opening another potential place for our soul family to gather. But after the energy that came through that space and what we were shown, and we were literally shown how the rainbow bridges connected through our systems, through our sound, through our voices, around the planetary body, we're like, oh, the universe has greater plans for Guardians of Gaia and what it is here to become and how it's here to serve the relationship with the planetary body, and let this evolutionary journey become one of collaboration with the planetary body consciousness and us as guardians of Gaia, which we are all born unto be, and are simply not role model that, and therefore do not understand fully what that role entails. So that's why we realized that it was very important to restructure the whole subscription to Guardians of Gaia that will be birthed next full moon, or birthed on Equinox, so that all energy that comes into Guardians of Gaia covers the operational costs and the growing costs of Guardians of Gaia, but then actually goes to funding programs and projects that are restoring right relationship between humanity and our planet. So Be Life Global was going to be the main benefactor of that, as a charity that is being led by the consciousness of the bees. And the other chunk we decided would go into the other projects that will emerge with time. And it's really quite extraordinary how it's all unfolding. So we're just showing up and saying, okay. And I've also, Kash is also joining us near midnight from central Poland. Kasia and I and two others at the Sound Temple in Poland were the ones that answered a call to hold a gathering for Seeds of New Earth. And this journey of what Guardians of Gaia is becoming is interconnected with that seeding in the heart of Europe. So it's really extraordinary just to be able to travel at the speed of love with deep listening and feeling of how this journey is all to unfold for us. And the way that it's a unifying soul family is extraordinary. Yeah. So thank you all for answering the call to be here today. Is there anything else that anyone else feels called to ask or share whilst we are here? So we are coming up to our super full blue moon. Blue moon because it occurs twice in the month of August, a full moon. And it's coming up as a super full moon because it will appear as our largest moon of the year. It is the closest to the earth. Depending if you follow Western astrology or Jyotish, in Western astrology, it's also a full moon in Pisces, a moon of the waters, and it seems to be impacting a lot of people quite intensely at the moment. So very important to be in connection with our waters, be in connection with our emotional bodies. And having that connection to our emotional bodies is vital for many of us, particularly in our younger years. And I was definitely one who would bypass the emotional body because I was so ultra sensitive, and I did not yet know that my sensitivity was my superpower. I would steer clear of emotions, even more so of the fiery emotions, because they had been erupted and projected in my household as a child. And later, even steering away from the more watery emotions. But the beauty of this is now, having understand better the elemental power, which I must say I'm only just starting to learn about, is I now understand the power of the emotional body. When the emotional body no longer rules us, and we have the consciousness and the fluidity to be able to channel the elemental powers of our emotional bodies. They are elemental powers of creation or destruction. So it's really important that we set our emotional bodies free with consciousness and with love, and learn how to channel that elemental power through our hearts into conscious change on the planet. And it is absolutely profound. And what I'm also discovering is from the frequency of the New Earth architecture, when we're working with ourselves or with others, that it need not be such a cathartic, hard-working process to transmute old, dense, elemental structures of stored emotions and bypassed emotions. That simply by engaging with consciousness, sound, breath, and movement, we can combust them and transform them simultaneously. And also from the New Earth architecture, we have the capacity to rewrite from the source field. And being able to rewrite from the source field probably speeds up the hard work of clearing by at least, I'd say, between 4 and 8 times the time it used to take to process heavy and dense emotions. It's really important. And this is why it's so important that our physical body is integrated through our journey in this timeline. Because that is what enables us to not get so stuck. The bodies need to be soft and strong. Fuerte and flexible. So it's really important. I can't emphasize enough how much more pleasure it is the more I take care of my body. Because my body has the capacity then to transmute everything and anything very quickly. And when in its state of rest, relaxation, expansion from the parasympathetic nervous system, we simply become one with our environment. And it's actually our body's nature to be ecstatic. And that comes from living, fully inhabiting these bodies, fully feeling everything and allowing it to pass through us. And that seems more important than ever. And the potential of evolution in that space has been absolutely profound. And a lot of it has to do with letting go of old thought forms, belief systems, and patterns of behavior, so that we may synchronize ourselves with the infinite potential of creation. If we are holding on to old stories in our mind, the chances are our body holds on to them too. But when we can dissolve them, let go of the stories, and the body can release them, the dance is much more dynamic. And it is available to us now. So let us pause there. Is there anything anyone would like to share or ask or contribute to our journey today from your own experiences? So I'm just asking where to from here, and I'm getting that we're going on a journey into the lake. So prepare yourself, whether this is a consciousness alone or you're taking your body with you. I'm not quite sure what's there, but we're going on a journey anyway. So let us begin. First of all, opening your mouth, closing your eyes, relaxing your jaw, exhaling with sound, really dropping into the body. Into the body, into your bones, into the marrow of your bones, into the ancient memories of your soul that are embedded deep within the cellular structure of the framework that you have been born unto in this lifetime and timeline. And let us dissolve the veils as we descend into the depths of Lago Atitlan, this ancient Atlantean portal, a pressure point a point where there has been misuse and abuse of personal power. Perhaps that story lives within you. Directly or indirectly, it resides deep within the memories of humanity. And we are gathering here today to dissolve the memories. Dissolve the past so that it no longer informs the present. So that it no longer informs the present, so that we may once again reopen to the infinite potential of creation. In right relation with our host planet, in right relation with the elemental structures of our physical bodies and our planetary body. And as we once again reopen to that infinite potential of creation, let that re-inform our cellular structures. The elemental structure right down to the subatomic particles that dwell within. Dissolving the stories, the conscious and unconscious stories that have been informing otherwise. Dissolving the creation stories all the way back to creation. The codes of creation that were gifted to us by the Kalahari Sun on June solstice. Tapping into that infinite potential. The blank page, the clean canvas. Giving your body permission to sound, breathe, or move, it will support releasing any memories that may be stagnant in your libraries. And as we gather today as guardians of Gaia, as we circle our planet, may this process reverberate out throughout the planetary body and the consciousness of humanity. I'm going to invite everybody to inhale and sound breathe through the heart space if it feels appropriate to you. We arrive into that still point and that 0 point. Some of you may still be journeying. For those of you who have returned, if there is anything you would like to share from your experience, you're very welcome to. It's quite extraordinary here on Atitlan because as we came into rest into that 0 point and pause there, then somebody's setting off fireworks. And there went once and then twice, and there was thunder and then 2 more afterwards. So it's really quite beautiful the way that And the surrounds are interacting with us here at Lago Atitlan. How was that journey for you?
Hi, Leanne, and hi, everyone.
Hi, John.
Hi. Yeah, I want to share because in a way we did a similar journey a few weeks ago, which was also a journey to a lake as well too, and this journey we've just done now had some very similar elements of the journey we did back on the 12th of August as well too. So on the 12th of August, we were asked to go to a place of power, and we were asked by one of the teachers within our school to go to a place of power within New Zealand and to do ceremony. This was an important ceremony, as it had been done every 20 years since I think about the 1983 was the last time it was done. And I had no idea where this place would be, but I was speaking to a woman who is a rangatira within a local Maori. She's like a chieftain, I guess. And she said that local Maori had the same message independently and separately to go to this lake in the middle of New Zealand called Lake Rotopunamu. And Punamu is the name of the New Zealand greenstone. And it also refers to the green color, which is the color of the heart chakra as well too. And as soon as she mentioned that they were going there to do ceremony, I knew that was the right place to go to. So we had about a 7-hour drive, and we went down there, and we had to get up very early, about 4 o'clock in the morning, and walk up a very steep path to this lake. And as we arrived there, the local hapu or tribe, the Maori, were singing karakia, waiata, which is their songs in their language. And they were sounding the conch shells, and the young women were doing a dance with something that's called poi. And so they were doing poi dance as well too. And it was a very, very beautiful scene as the sun started to appear on the far side of the lake as well too. I was immediately struck with the power of the lake, and we waited a while for the older members of the hapu to arrive, but they found that journey a little bit tough, so some of them didn't turn up. So after an hour or so, we moved into our ceremony, and what I'd been asked to do was to open a male and female portal there at the side of the lake. And the month beforehand, the guy we stayed with, whose name was Raoul, he had also done a ceremony at the lake. And he said there were 7 women that had come from Australia and New Zealand, and they'd been called to go to the lake to release the female energy that was the guardian of the lake. And they had done that. And so we were arriving at that time where this female energy of the lake had been released, and she was really, really full of joy. And so I experienced her as dancing a little bit like a Balinese dancer, and she was just giving off huge sparkles of light. They were just kind of exploding from her being as well, and she epitomized joy. She really was just super happy. And so we did this ceremony, which was important because there's a portal that opens every 20 years that's has been utilized by governments in the past in a way that's not particularly nice. They had been utilized in 1943 for an experiment called the Philadelphia experiment, and then in 83 for the Montauk experiment. And Ron, who was the teacher, had been conducting ceremony every 20 years at the same time in order to infuse the planet really with just a vibration of love. So we had opened these two portals, and we had, as a group, poured the energy out into the planet, into the actual Christ consciousness grid. And we sat with that for a while. I found it difficult to come out of that meditation, and I could feel the joy coming from the female energy of that of the Green Lake as well too, and that energy has stayed with me for weeks afterwards as well too. So coming back to what we've just done now, I could feel a crossover between the ceremony we'd done with that lake in the central North Island of New Zealand, as well as the energy of that lake where you are at the moment too, Leanne, as well too. There was a beautiful crossover there with that as well too. So I just wanted to share that. And did you want to say something, Mel?
I just wanted to share that that particular lake is on the ley lines of the chakras. It's a spinner wheel, and it spins anti-clockwise. So as we were sending the energy through the male and female stargates, the energy was spinning anti-clockwise up to the Christ grid and also down into the heart of this particular lake. Yes, it was very, very spectacular time there. It was quite a journey to get there. It was about half an hour, really, really steep uphill walk. And of course, as John shared, the grandmothers who were quite overweight, actually, they just found it too difficult to get there. But the younger Maori women and men held the space really, really well. And yes, so it was a magical time. And I want to share too that Raoul, with his cello, before we did our ceremony, he brought everyone in with his cello, which really resonates with the heart. Yeah, so at my journey with this lake just now, I don't know why, but I kept getting this on our TV, Shortland Street, which is a weekly, TV soap sort of thing. Years ago, there was a little saying that said, "You're not in Guatemala now, Dr. Ropata." And it just kept popping through my head, and I don't know what that was about. But yeah, but no, lovely to make the connection between the two lakes. Beautiful. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you, John and Waveney, and thank you for bringing and linking through your ceremony on the 12th to this, because yes, it felt very resonant in the connection there between Rotopanamo and Atitlan. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you both for sharing. Is there anybody else who would like to share their experience?
Yeah, and I would love to share just for a second.
Please do, Casey. Yeah.
As you were speaking us into the journey, I was seeing you in Atlantis, and the destruction that took place, and having the awareness that my soul has no connection with Atlantis. I went into the ocean because I was there at that time, like holding the Stargate portal for Sirius B. There's a Stargate down there at the bottom of the ocean. And when you send energy to kind of restore the out of balance piece, it felt like there was a gateway that connected the two, from the ocean to the portal in Atlantis. And I just got the message that, like, when we do healing of the timeline, that order is then restored again, which is beautiful. And I was seeing like those source codes come in at that time and being able to take it back to that void space.
Beautiful. Yeah, that was my impression also. It literally just rewrote the memory banks back to source, back to creation, back to its pristine origin. And I'm like, wow, this is the power we have when we gather together and offer ourselves in service as guardians. Tracking. Beautiful. And I think it's important to understand and honor the power of the water. You know, our waters have such a huge role to play as transmitters of energy and information on the planet right now. It's absolutely extraordinary. And we've been, many on the Mastery of Multidimensionality group travel a lot. And one of the topics we've explored is how do we land into a new space? How do we arrive? How do we support our little physical human body that we've just uplifted off one place in the planet and we've just delivered to another? You know, that can be really abrupt and rude to these sensitive animal bodies that we've got. So how do we really take care of them? How do we prepare them for the journey? How do we work with the guardians of our own body consciousness? How do we support our body during transit and on arrival? And a lot of these ways of support, the foundation of the pathways of support beyond our morning practice is actually got to do with our water. You know, where is our water coming from? If we're such a huge percentage of water, it makes a difference of the quality of the water that we are ingesting. And taking care of our waters and the information that's in it. So I encourage everyone to find the best quality source of spring water in their neighborhoods and consume that. If that's unavailable, I actually recommend people explore investing in kangen machines. Kangen is a Japanese word that means return to source origin. And I actually travel with a kangen machine so that I'm not using plastic bottles everywhere I go, and that I can work directly with the waters of the land that I'm in. So I'm drinking lake water through a filtration system and through a kangen machine with a lot of love and gratitude for every drop of it. So that hydrating body before we travel, hydration during we travel, and obviously hydration when we arrive, but most importantly is to submerge our body in the local nearest water, natural water source available, be that sweet water, salt water, or warm water, or freezing cold water. It's one of the most rapid ways to recalibrate our watery body when we relocate it on the planet, and for it to integrate into the planetary field in that environment. So yeah, off the plane and into the ocean, off the plane and into the lake, into the rivers, into the nearest thermal waters, whatever they are, makes a huge, huge difference. And ideally on a regular basis. these days when I travel, I do my best to always be living near a local natural water source and honoring those waters and all our waters. So, is there anything else anyone would like to ask, share, or contribute on our journey today? The one thing that I would like to share while we're on the subject of water is I have extended an invitation to Mike O'Donnell. Those in Aotearoa all perhaps all do know Mike O'Donnell, the waterman, one of my rocks on this planet, who is a waterman and a potter and one of the most grounded, down to earth beings I know. And he has recently released a lovely documentary on water, which I will share on the Facebook event page so everyone can explore that in their own time. And in the near future, we're actually going to get Mike on as a guest to take us on his beautiful journey, his way with the water. So that is something to look forward to. Also, it's the wee hours of the morning in Bali, Indonesia, but Jan still managed to join us. And in our future gatherings, we will go through, there'll be 2 bee topics. One, I'll probably share what it's been my experience from living with bees during my journey of following the path of pollen and listening to the consciousness of the bees as we birth Bee Life Global in Indonesia. And we'll also get Jan to perhaps give us a talk and perhaps a slideshow on beekeeping for beginners, on what it is to live with bees, because that has been an extraordinary, very nourishing journey for me to live with the consciousness of the bees in Bali. They quite literally, if this is my workspace in Bali, they lived here right next to me. And I got to become an accepted part of the hive and lived in harmony with them. And it truly has been a very beautiful and life-changing experience to experience what it is to live within the unified field of love, and to understand the gifts that bees have for humanity. Our primary pollinators are the most endangered species on the planet right now. And they hold the template of Homo universalis, of our evolutionary destination. When everything a bee does for the greater good of all, for the planet, for humanity, and for all species. And everything a bee does with love and joy. So they are wonderful teachers. And we would like to invite you all to get to know them more deeply and deeper your connection and communication with them. Because they truly are profound housemates. Very low maintenance and very full of love, unconditional. And on that note, I am feeling that we may just bring our journey to a closure today. But before we do, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your service to our planet and humanity at this exciting, profoundly exciting time of evolution. It feels like we are at tipping points of where years of dedication and hard work have collaborated in obtaining. And the most wonderful part of this that I'm discovering is that from the journey forward is no longer a solitary journey. That the power of our unified field of love, simply being in that, is enough to bring change. So know that you do make a difference. Know that you are loved. And know that the depth of your own self-love and care is what is absolutely vital. And to be able to sustain yourself, to be able to sustain ourselves in the eye of the storm that is raging around our planet right now. So I have a lot of love and gratitude for each and every one of you, and I'm grateful to be sharing this adventure with you. So to bring our journey to closure today, let us request that everyone here returns fully intact onto the earth plane, into their body, into their bubble, into their being. That everyone may take what serves from this journey together and release all that no longer does and anything that doesn't resonate. We'd also like to thank those of our soul family who have joined us in dream time and will be listening to this recording later. And if anyone is not on my mailing list and would like to be on so that you get the links to connect to Guardians of Gaia as she goes online on September Equinox, please drop me a message. So I invite you all to unmute and let's just share 3 ohms together.
You ready? Are you ready?
Inhale for Om.
Singing.
Aho. Journey.
Aho.
And I look forward to meeting you all again if you feel called on full moon Friday the 29th of September. Until then, journey well, take good care. And
Love and blessings. Thank you. And thank you, Leanne. And thank you, everyone. If anyone hasn't connected with me yet, I'd be